Peter, it's great to see you at Chargers training camp. Your observations as to what the biggest needs the Chargers have coming into this season.
I just think they need to protect Phillip Rivers. I think they're going to be significantly better on defense. In the last few years, you look at what this team has done in the offseason, and it's really sort of trying to retain the status quo, trying to make sure that you can hang on to a Vincent Jackson and all that. But, I think this year they've really attempted to build for the future. They've rebuilt their receiving core. They've gotten 3 or 4 new pieces for a front seven that was really in need of some repair. But I still think that the right side of the offensive line and center is okay, and it's the left side. Jared Gaither's a very valuable player for this team. Tyrone Green at the left guard, assuming that he wins that job, I think he's really important. And it's interesting. People criticize Phillip Rivers for his interceptions. Rightfully so. You can't turn the ball over. But I don't want him, if I'm a Charger fan, I don't want him to change the way he plays. Phillip Rivers has the confidence to put the ball into very small areas. And, I think when I watch him practice, I just say to myself, I've got a lot of confidence that he's going to be able to make the throws he needs to make. So I think the Chargers are going to have a good year. I mean, it's funny. This is the first time in a long time that they're probably not going to be. They might be favored. I don't know who will be favored, but usually they're overwhelming favorites. And this year they're kind of in the pack, and you get the sense that they like that.
You mentioned Phillip Rivers' his ability to put the ball in small places, and the receivers. No Vincent Jackson. They added Robert Meacham. They have Eddie Royal, and also you have Vincent Brown another year, and Malcolm Floyd. Is this a better wide receiving core, more versatile with the guys they have right now?
Well, look, you can't talk about the wide receiver core and their ability and the depth without talking about Antonio Gates, because Antonio Gates is one of these ridiculously hybrid players who can play in a lot of different areas. And so I just kind of look at where they are now. The Vincent Jackson thing over the last 3 or 4 years, look, his great year, I named him All-Pro. I love Vincent Jackson as a player. But the fact is, you cannot count year in and year out on a guy who you got to sign for 1 year at fabulously inflated numbers and not be able to plan for the future. I think it's better for this team long term that they have a plan, and they have a less expensive plan, because the cap's going to be flat the next couple of years. You don't want to pay a guy who you're not sure is going to be part of your long-term future $10 or $11 million for a single year. I'd rather invest in a number of guys and move forward. Vincent Jackson will be tough to replace. Meacham is not Vincent Jackson, but Meacham has got some great downfield speed.
I want to ask you about the Chargers' first-round pick this year, and that would be Melvin Ingram. It's been, I think, since Sean Merriman, since the Chargers have taken a defensive player that's made an impact. Do you get the sense that Ingram can be that type of guy?
See, I think, when on draft night, I remember a lot of people saying, and not here, I didn't talk to A.J. Smith or anybody here on draft night, but I remember a lot of people said, wow, Melvin Ingram really fell farther than people thought he would. So I think he's got a lot of respect around the league, from football people. But pass rusher is such a difficult position to project, because I just don't think there's any way that you can ever say, after a lot of the great college pass rushers we've seen come into the NFL, and then they just don't do it in the NFL. There's no way to project it. I think the positive sign for them is that when you watched Melvin Ingram in college, you saw an extremely competitive guy who, from all accounts, likes football. I think that's one of the things that you have to look at. And if a guy doesn't really like the game, if he's not competitive, he's not real scrappy, he's going to struggle in the NFL. And I think Ingram has those traits.
Last couple of questions are going to be on the AFC West. A lot of people are saying this is actually a much more competitive division than it's been in quite some time. You add Peyton Manning. You have a different head coach in Oakland, Carson Palmer for a full season, and the Chiefs are getting a ton of guys back. Would it surprise you if any of those teams won the division, or is there a clear favorite in your opinion?
I'd be a little surprised if Oakland won the division. I'd be slightly surprised if Kansas City won the division, but,
Why?
Because I don't know right now if the weapons on offense can match the weapons, let's say, at other teams in the division, say Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker. And look, I like Jonathan Baldwin. I like Dwayne Bowe. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean that they're not as good. But I just don't know right now if Matt Castle to those guys is as impactful or effective as Peyton Manning to his receivers or Phillip Rivers to his receivers. So I think I don't say that negatively to Bowe and Baldwin necessarily, as much as I say I haven't seen the quarterback and those receivers be great for an extended period of time. But the one thing that the Chiefs do and do very well is they put pressure on the quarterback, and Romeo Crennel is going to have a system in place where, he's got Tamba Ali, he's got Derek Johnson, he's got guys who are going to be significantly impact the passing game. So that's why, I'm fascinated by this division. And I think it probably is the first time in a long time, maybe since 2005, where coming into the year, the Chargers haven't been the overwhelming favorite.
Peter, it's been a pleasure. I hope we'll see you in San Diego during the season, and I hope you get a chance to go ahead and enjoy a craft beer before you hop on a plane and you make your training camp tour.
Marty, thank you very much. I was coming in here today and I said, why haven't sometime in my life why haven't I lived in this town at some point? It's just fabulous to come here, especially, at the times of year when it's so miserable back east. That's why, I think there's a lot of sports writers out there who secretly kind of root for the Chargers. They want them to be playing home games in January.